Good evening and welcome to this virtual meeting of Full Council of Allerdale Borough Council. My name is Gail Roach, I'm the Democratic Services Manager, and for the purpose of this meeting, I'm also the host. I will be assisting the Mayor with the use of technology to manage the process of this meeting. I've got no control over the meeting and it will not formally start until instructed to by the Mayor. We are currently being live streamed on YouTube and the recording will be made available on the Council's website. Everyone who has indicated that they are attending have now joined and the meeting is now locked. Shortly, I'll hand you over to the Mayor, but first, some introductions. Can I ask all attendees to introduce themselves, please, starting with the members. Councillor Annison.
Councillor Annison.
Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Armstrong is still with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Bainbridge.
Thank you. Councillor Mary Bainbridge.
Councillor Bell.
Councillor Bell.
Councillor Briggs.
Yeah, Councillor Herbert Briggs.
Councillor Campbell-Savers.
Councillor Campbell-Savers here, thanks.
Councillor Coburn.
Good evening, Councillor Nikki Coburn.
Councillor Cook.
Good evening, Councillor John Cook.
Councillor Crouch. I think we might have lost Councillor Crouch. I'll come back at the end. Councillor Daniels.
Councillor Daniels.
Councillor Fairbrother.
Good evening, Councillor Janet Fairbrother.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Good evening, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Councillor Gaston.
Good evening, Councillor Peter Gaston.
Councillor Granger.
Good evening, Councillor Malcolm Granger.
Councillor Greeny.
Good evening, Councillor Ian Greeny.
Councillor Harrington.
Good evening, Councillor Harrington.
Councillor Heaslip.
Councillor Michael Heaslip, evening.
Councillor Hedworth.
Good evening, Councillor Hedworth.
Councillor Hodgson.
Good evening, Councillor Hodgson.
Councillor Horsley.
Good evening, Councillor Daniel Horsley.
Councillor Johnson.
I don't know if that was for my benefit, but good evening.
Councillor Kemp.
Good evening, Councillor George Kemp.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Peter Kendall present.
Councillor King.
Good evening, Councillor King.
Councillor Kirkbride.
Good evening.
Councillor Lansbury.
Good evening, Councillor Lansbury.
Councillor Lister.
Good evening, Councillor Lister.
Councillor Little.
Good evening, Councillor Little.
Councillor Lynch.
Good evening, Councillor Elaine Lynch.
Councillor Maguire.
Good evening, Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Markley.
Good evening, Councillor Markley.
Councillor Martin.
Good evening, Councillor Martin.
Councillor McCarran Holmes.
Good evening, Carly McCarran Holmes.
Councillor Mumby.
Good evening, Councillor Mumby.
Councillor Pitcher.
Good evening, Councillor Alan Pitcher.
Councillor Stanwyck.
Good evening, Councillor Sandworth.
Councillor Sansom.
Good evening, Councillor Sansom.
Councillor Scott.
Good evening, Councillor Paul Scott.
Councillor Semple.
Hiya, Councillor Andy Semple.
Councillor Smith.
Good evening, Councillor Alan Smith.
Councillor Stoddart.
Good evening, Councillor Steve Stoddart.
Councillor Tyson.
Good evening, Councillor Alan Tyson.
Councillor Wilkinson,
Good evening, Councillor Wilkinson.
Councillor Williams,
Good evening, Councillor Linda Williams.
and I'll just return, have we got Councillor Crouch with us?
Hello, I've just received a message from Councillor Crouch. He's got an issue with the iPad he's using. He was unable to mute himself. He normally has icons that he can't see, so he's just trying to rejoin now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And now the officers, please. Andrew Seekins,
Good evening, Andrew Seekins, Chief Executive Officer.
Sharon Sewell,
Good evening, Sharon Sewell, Head of Governance and Monitoring Officer.
Lee Jardine,
Good evening, Lee Jardine, Democratic Services Officer.
and we also have support from a Deputy Monitoring Officers and Communications Officers as well. Thank you for the introductions. Please can everyone remain on mute throughout the meeting. If members wish to speak, can you please use the raise hand icon and only speak when instructed to by the Mayor. And then once you're finished, please remember to lower your hand. To vote on items, the Mayor will ask myself to do a roll call through each member alphabetically. So I'll now hand over to the Mayor to formally start the meeting. Madam Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the full council meeting of Allerdale Borough Council this evening, Wednesday, the 23rd of November, 2020. As previously stated, I am Councillor Hilary Harrington and I am Mayor of Allerdale and Chair of Council. Before we formally start this meeting, I would like councillors and officers to join me, please, in a minute's silence in honour of our colleague, Councillor Joe Holliday, who sadly recently passed away, and also for former Allerdale councillor Stephen Coates. Joe was elected to Allerdale Borough Council as a Labour member for St John's Ward, Workington in May 2007. He then became an independent councillor, continuing to serve in St John's. He was Mayor of Allerdale from 2011 to 2012. Joe has also been a county councillor since 2001 and on Workington Town Council. Joe served over 60 years in local government with his 40 years employment with the Cumbria County Council. He retired in 1999. He played an active part in community life, being a school governor at 3 schools and at Lakes College, and was clerk to District Parish Council. And all those who knew him, he was a lifelong Workington Town Rugby League Club fan. Our thoughts and prayers are with Joe's wife, Dorothy, and family. And I'd just like to add, I knew Joe personally. He was a devoted family man, a pleasure to know, a man of integrity, wisdom, and kindness. And also like to remember Stephen Coates was an Allerdale Ward member for All Saints Cockermouth between 2007 and 2008. He served on Cockermouth Town Council for over 16 years, and in the town was chairman of the Royal British Legion and the Cockermouth Conservative Association. He sadly passed away in October of this year. We send our love, respect, and sympathy to his family. Can you all please join me for a minute's silence? Okay. Thank you. I will start the meeting with Allerdale Borough Council's motto, Ex Unitat, Curique Fortio, which translates to caring and working together by these in Allerdale made stronger. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Could I have any apologies for absences, please?
Madam Mayor, we have no apologies. All councillors are present.
Right, thank you, Kyle. So we'll move forward to item number 2, declaration of interest. Councillors and staff to give notice of any interest relating to any item on the agenda in accordance with the adopted code of conduct. Are there any declarations of interest? None received. Item number 3, exclusion of the press and public. There is nothing on the agenda we are going to discuss this evening that will be in private. Okay. Item agenda 4, notice of motion. 2 motions have been received. The maximum time allowed for this item is 30 minutes. All speakers have a maximum of 5 minutes, and the councillor moving the motion will have a right to reply at the end of the debate. If the mover speaks again on their motion during the debate, we will move straight to a vote. Councillor Alan Smith, can you please read out your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's his name again? It went off. Hang on. It went off. Hang on. Spare with Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council notes that we are in a lockdown in a pandemic, which prevents effective engagement to all our citizens, especially those without online facilities. Council also notes that central government intends to use a white paper in the spring on local government reorganisation, which may set out the criteria which may be amended following a full national consultation and responses to the content of that white paper. Council therefore urges central government to defer consideration of any responses which they have received to the civil servants letter of October the 9th this year, until the consideration of responses to the white paper and other publication of the final criteria for local government reform, which should include fully inclusive consultation and analytic process for such significant decision making. Council instructs the Chief Executive to convey the text of this resolution to central government. Madam Mayor, explaining the rationale behind the motion, I believe that at the present moment we are in a permanent pandemic at the moment. We're in a lockdown situation at the moment, and there's been no engagement with councillors, with the general public, or most important, our stakeholders of this authority, on whether we have 2 unity authorities, 3 unity authorities, or maybe even 4. It is morally wrong at the present moment in time to carry on this exercise. It gives little comfort out there to see something being steamrolled through. Why is it so important to get Cumbria through before the white paper is presented in the spring? Is there some ulterior motive by civil servants? I believe we should wait until the white paper is published in the spring before going ahead. And I'd like to make known publicly that I am a staunch supporter of reorganisation in Cumbria. I was part of the last failed delegation back about 4 or 5 years ago, when we got the 6 districts and the county to actually go forward for combined authorities. But at the 11th hour, we were knifed by the government. The Treasury withdrew the support for that with the income which was going to come in the millions. That's why we are where we are at the present moment in time. There's been moves for the past 20 odd years to get Cumbria sorted out, local government. A few more months will not make one iota of difference. I believe that we should wait until the white paper has been published before going ahead. We may get a better deal from the white paper than what's on offer now. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, thank you, Councillor Smith. Have you got a seconder? Councillor Smith? Mr. Paul Scott. You're being seconded by Mr. Paul Scott.
Yes. I'd just like to say, Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm a big believer in local government restructure, and I'm pretty sure it will take place. I also agree it's exactly what Cumbria needs. I think I've voiced this in the press, and from improving our local services to stopping the confusion of the tiered system, and more so about delivering the savings that would come from this. However, the government's failed to deliver a white paper, and I would suggest they failed to deliver a white paper because of a worldwide pandemic that we're all fighting against. I, like many others in this meeting, have worked tirelessly in our communities to support those in need. We've done this because it's our priority. Our priority is the health and well-being of those we represent. It concerns me that leaders of councils have continued having meetings and agreed at this time to plough ahead. The white paper's there, as Alan says, it's basically published to gauge public opinion with regards to policy. You know, the fact that our deputy leader, in conjunction with other leaders, have chosen to progress without this white paper and during a worldwide pandemic greatly concerns me. Our managers and our staff are here to focus purely upon the residents of Allerdale, and I see this as nothing more than a political distraction. The sensible option would have been for all leaders to say now is not the right time and respond together saying thank you, but no thank you. Now, let's be honest, if the government can't deliver a white paper with what we believe because of a pandemic, we have no right whatsoever attempting to restructure councils because of a pandemic. Then, of course, there's a discussion regarding democracy. We have had no decision of our executive as yet. We have seen the deputy leader trigger processes that may see Allerdale actually wiped off the map here. Agree or disagree with restructure, the manner in which this council has been treated, in my opinion, is morally wrong. Before it was triggered, this council should have had a say. We should have had working groups. There should have been debate. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We are having a debate now with no vote. I hear the deputy leader talking about trains leaving the station, and we must be on it. However, what we must remember is that he was the one that pushed the train alongside the other leaders of councils out the station. It's almost like we've been thrown off out of a plane at 40,000 feet, and on the way down he's asking us what colour parachute we want. So yes, I second the motion, and I would just like to say that the independent group are fully supportive of this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. The motion is now open for debate. Councillor Faber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say that it's strange that Cumbria, North Yorkshire and Somerset have been singled out as the three authorities which they want to rush through on regulations which I think were issued, guidance was issued in 2006. That's 14 years ago. The world's changed. We really should, as the move of the motion said, wait for the white paper in the spring. How can we move forward in such a precarious time? Because it's letting down our communities as much as anything else. And also, when you look at what happened to the white paper on planning, there was an absolute uproar when it came out, and they've had to do a U-turn on many of the bizarre proposals that they put forward in that white paper. So why Cumbria should be singled out, as well as the other two authorities, I don't know. We must make a protest, as I understand that Barrow and South Lakes have also done. There's no harm in it, and we're standing up for the communities of this part of our part of Cumbria, which is Allerdale. So I fully support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faber. Thank you. Councillor Semple, please. Would you like to speak next?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, in support of the motion, I mean, like Councillor Smith says, I fully support what one Cumbria. Certainly in my previous working career, my feeling was that there were too many councils. However, quite simply, I'm a great believer in democracy, and I find it, ironically, I suppose this is being done to better democracy. We're all living in a bubble, I think, as Councillor Smith said. But even in my bubble, I have met no one when I step out of my house down Brigham Road that thinks that we should currently be having this change. So it's the wrong time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, thank you, Councillor Semple. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I asked the Mayor to hold this full council tonight after listening to the views of members across the political spectrum over the past couple of weeks. I respect the fact that members wish to have their say on this hugely important issue for our residents, and I look forward to hearing what you all have to say this evening. Many of you in this meeting will have debated this issue before. Many of you will have debated this issue before more than once. Some of you may have been debating this issue since the last century. We have had many false dawns for local government reorganisation in Cumbria. We have never successfully concluded the debate, and therefore it keeps coming back round. I don't think we need to go into the whys and wherefores as to why this has been the case, but I think we can all agree that our failure to conclude this debate has hurt the people and businesses of this county. This debate keeps coming back round for a reason.
Can you see me? Am I on your screen? Yeah,
Can I continue, Madam Mayor?
You can continue. Excuse me. Councillor Johnson, will you please continue speaking?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This debate keeps coming back round for a reason. For me, the issue of local government reorganisation is an opportunity to address many of the challenges we face as a council and the area faces as a whole. For too long, as an area, we have been trying to catch up with the rest of the country. For too long, we have watched others get investment that we need. For too long, have we been cutting services that our people desperately need. We simply cannot fail. To conclude the argument this time round, there is too much at stake. The current structures of local government have not delivered the change we need, and we will find it hard to change when overwhelming narrative of the councils in the county is reducing budgets and financial struggles. I certainly didn't get involved in local government to oversee decades of budget cutting. I got involved to make this area better. I am no longer prepared to accept second best or to be at the back of the queue. It's for this reason that back in July, I was only too happy to add my name to a letter asking the Secretary of State to initiate a process of local government reorganisation in the county. Other leaders were chomping at the bit to initiate the debate, and it would have happened, whether we choose to participate or not. Every council in Cumbria has submitted an initial proposal for local government reorganisation. We all agree that the time for us has come. But some of you will remind me that we're in the midst of a global pandemic. This is not the time to be adding to workloads. This is not the time for change, but for stability. I disagree. The next few years will be the most difficult for our economy has ever faced. The most difficult our area has ever faced. The most difficult that our residents have ever faced. We need to give ourselves the best chance in facing these problems. We are already trying to play catch up. We can't risk falling further behind. If the Secretary of State agrees to local government reorganisation in Cumbria, any changes will still be 12 months away. Another 12 months that we have lost. Another 12 months in which we'll be trying to balance the budget when we should be investing in our communities and local economy. We can't afford that 12 months to become another 5 years. The decision is not about here and now. As councillors, we should be thinking about what comes next. This decision is about the next 5 years in Cumbria. More than ever, we need a strong, united voice for our communities, a strong voice that can put our case to central government and be heard, so we get the support and investment we need. Do we want more of the same, or do we want something different? We will never get a level playing field if we're on a different pitch playing a different game. Some may say that we can't engage with our communities at this moment in time. I say that we have already been more connected. We've shown simply by having this meeting right now, where the whole community can watch this debate, that we can engage with our community even in the most trying circumstances. We've shown that technology has given us more tools to engage with more people. No longer can we kid ourselves as a modern council that we need to have 50 people in the council chamber listening to endless PowerPoint presentations in order to call it engagement. The world has adapted, moved on, and so should we. If all else fails, I'm sure that people will be able to fill the
What do you say?
paper
You've only got
survey
30 seconds left. I'm sorry.
all the way.
You've got 30 seconds left.
Yeah,
Thank
I heard you, Madam Chair. We have more tools available to us now than ever we had to reach every age gap and every section of our community. I also don't want to wait for the white paper. The white paper has already been delayed, and as I've already said, I don't think delays are in the best interests of our communities and businesses. Every delay we introduce into this process, it's just more ground that we need to make up at a later date. I'm also a little concerned that the current government has a desire to create larger unitary authorities. At the moment, we have a window that allows us for councils to be under 300,000.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The time is up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Councillor Faber, I noticed your hand was up, but I'm sorry, you're only allowed to speak once, one question.
Thank you,
Sorry
Madam
on that
Mayor.
one.
If you'd, I didn't realise that rule was being followed, but thank you very much.
It is being followed, definitely being followed, Councillor Faber. Thank you. All right then. Councillor Kendall, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I fully support Councillor Alan Smith's motion. I am really sort of quite disturbed, and I've written from day one, from we went down this sort of Zoom business, at our peril, and I know this happens daily. I've had 4 people today, and that is an average every day. People knocking on our door, going back through the gate, talking across the thing, wanting us to deal with issues relating to Allerdale in all sorts of aspects. And they come here because they haven't got access to IT. And I think it's very, very remiss of us and some air of arrogance if we assume that everybody is on the God Almighty IT systems. You know, we have to assume that there are people out there that pay the council tax, that have equality in the community at large, and we have to make arrangements for them to be able to sort of put forward their recommendations. If we can't have public meetings where the public can sort of have the opportunity to put forward their views on anything, especially something so as important as this reorganisation of authorities, it's a bad show. It lacks democracy and openness. Do not, at your peril, assume that everybody is addicted to the God Almighty IT. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Go. Councillor Markley, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I think that now is the time for us to go forward. We've been fighting this since 2007. I was in amongst the last ones and all of the ones beforehand. We're now following government guidelines. Government have asked us to go forward. When, as Mike, what the deputy leader says is we are following what the rest of the council leaders were doing. And if we don't, we will be left alone, and we shouldn't be. Getting more money into the district is what we need. We need to get more money into Cumbria, more money into West Cumbria, and we need to move forward with one voice. We need a bigger voice, a better voice on the West Coast, and that is what we do. Coming together on this, we need to definitely move forward for reform and go forward solidly together. And just speak about it and just go forward. And whenever I go to the parish council meetings, I get a lot of people saying now that people are telling you they don't want it. Well, all the residents that I have, all my community want it. They're saying, yes, reduce the councils, go forward, more voice. A Metro Mayor will bring us more money in, and we can then expand and we can do a better job in West Cumbria. So I think we should definitely be going for it now. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Markley. Councillor Heaslip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to say I agree with a lot of what Mike Johnson said and a lot of what Tony Markley said, except about the rush. I'm all in favour of unitary local government, but I think we've got to get it right. and we seem to be going ahead with an unseemly rush. And I don't actually blame the executive for playing the game as they see it in front of them at the time. What I do blame is government for rushing this process. The minister said in one of his letters that it would be wrong to proceed with local government reorganisation during a pandemic, except in Cumbria, North Yorkshire and Somerset. Now, what the hell have we done in Cumbria that the pandemic can be sort of ignored, where in all the rest of the country, where there is two-tier local government, there is the minister accepted that it would be wrong in a pandemic to go ahead. So I think that the danger is that the minister, for some reason, we don't quite understand why, is pushing ahead with this in Cumbria, North Yorkshire and Somerset, as if, well, okay, they're in a pandemic, but actually they don't really count. We're just going to impose our solution on them anyway. We're not going to have a consultation. We're not going to have a white paper. So my argument is not so much with the executive. I suppose they had to respond as they responded. My argument's with the government for pushing this process through in a completely unseemly and hasty way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hayslip. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to speak to one or two of the points that have been raised there. I think we need to be clear that once the submissions, and there are likely to be 4 of them, because as Councillor Johnson rightly says, the other authorities in Cumbria will be putting forward their plans as well. If we don't participate in that process, we could end up having something imposed on us that we had no say in. That there is, once those proposals are all in, central government will at that stage decide what are viable propositions, and at that stage there will be a full consultation. So everybody will get their say. And as for the IT question, at that stage, all routes will be open for all members of the public to give us their opinion. So, to suggest really that this has been done in any sort of closed way, that it isn't an open process, this is really not the case. And indeed, within the council, what have we had now? We've had an extra scrutiny meeting. There have been, I think, 2 information sessions for councillors. It's been made very clear that councillors can speak to executive members who are involved in this process at any moment of their choosing. And in addition to that, we've got a cross-party group that's met several times to discuss progress. So it really isn't the case that this has been a closed process at all. It will be consulted upon. And I think most importantly of all, there will be a public consultation once the proposals are in. But please, councillors, please don't forget that the other districts will also be putting forward their proposals as well. And were we not to participate in that, we could well end up having something forced upon us without our choosing. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Now we're coming on to Councillor Campbell. You're allowed to speak. You've got to be the last speaker on this debate. So, Councillor Campbell, save us, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. I don't know what motion the members of the executive are looking at, but it's not the same one I'm looking at here. We're not calling for it to be. We're not calling for the executive not to participate in this call for a proposal from the government. We're telling them that we want to express our concern as a council that now is not the time to do this. So I really don't understand why they seem to be suggesting we don't play that game. There seems to, I suspect when we go to the vote, there'll be a consensus that now is not the time. And I've heard a lot of people say that to us. So let's just crack on and show that that's happening. It's not what we're arguing here. We appreciate you've got to do what you're doing. Councillor Hayslip has said that he appreciates that. But we are saying now is not the time. And government should know that that's how we feel. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzgerald, is it a point of order you wish to make? Councillor Fitzgerald?
No, Madam Mayor.
No, I'm sorry, that is the final speaker tonight. We now move on and I'll hand you over to Gail for the vote on this one.
Madam Mayor, I have a chance to come back on that.
Yes, Councillor Smith, you are entitled to come back in. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one or two points there raised by Tony Markley and Mike Johnson about getting money into Cumbria. Yeah, we want money back into Cumbria as soon as possible. It's our own money what we're getting back in again. Because thanks for 11 years of Tory cuts from national government, that's the money we've lost. What we want is our own money back, plus what we've lost as well. Cumbrian needs a special case in Cumbria, special case. The second motion brings that into focus, Madam Mayor. But to talk about putting money back into this county, it was the Conservative government who's robbed the county council of billions over the past 11 years, and also took, I think about $4.5 million out of our coffers as well for frontline services. Because of good management and good councils and good officers, Allerdale has performed to the best of their ability on frontline services. We've cut no frontline services. So to say that it's just about money, it isn't. It's about service to the people out there. We're the only one who's got a weekly bin collection. Not many councils out there have kept that going, but we have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I will now hand over to Gail to take the vote on the motion by roll call. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, can you please say your name and whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Annison.
Councillor Annison, firmly against.
Councillor Armstrong.
Firmly for.
Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Mary Bainbridge for.
Councillor Bell.
I'm against.
Councillor Briggs.
Councillor Herbert Briggs, firmly for.
Councillor Marcus Campbell Savers.
For.
Sorry, was that for?
For.
Councillor Coburn.
Councillor Nicky Coburn, for.
Councillor Cook.
Councillor Cook, against.
Councillor Crouch. Councillor Crouch.
Councillor Crouch, for.
Thank you. Councillor Daniels.
Councillor Daniels, against.
Councillor Fairbrother.
Councillor Fairbrother for.
Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Against the motion.
Councillor Gaston.
Councillor Peter Gaston, for.
Councillor Granger.
Councillor Malcolm Granger, against.
Councillor Greenie.
Councillor Greenie, for.
Councillor Harrington.
Councillor Harrington for.
Councillor Heaslip.
For.
Councillor Hedworth.
Councillor Hedworth, against.
Councillor Hodgson.
Councillor Hodgson, against.
Councillor Horsley.
Councillor Horsley, for.
Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Johnson, against.
Councillor Kemp.
Councillor Kemp, for.
Councillor Kendall.
Councillor Peter Kendall, for.
Councillor King.
Councillor King, for.
Councillor Kirkbride.
Councillor Kirkbride, for.
Councillor Lansbury.
Councillor Lansbury, for.
Councillor Lister.
Councillor Lister, against.
Councillor Little.
Councillor Little, for the motion.
Councillor Lynch.
Councillor Lynch, for.
Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Maguire, for.
Councillor Markley,
Councillor Markley against.
Councillor Martin,
Councillor Martin against.
Councillor McCarran Holmes,
Councillor Holmes for.
Councillor Mumby,
Against.
Councillor Pitcher,
Councillor Pitcher against.
Councillor Stanneth,
Councillor Sandwith for.
Councillor Sampson,
Councillor Sanson for.
Councillor Scott,
Councillor Scott for.
Councillor Semple,
Councillor Semple for.
Councillor Smith,
Councillor Smith for.
Councillor Stoddart,
Against.
Councillor Tyson,
Councillor Tyson against.
Councillor Wilkinson,
For the motion.
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams for.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, the votes are 28 in favour, 16 against and no abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you. We've now reached the maximum times. I'm going to allow to run over a further 10 minutes. So, Councillor Heaslip, can you please read out your motion?
Madam Mayor, thank you. If we're short of time, and my motion is quite a long motion, and everybody's got the papers in front of them, including those watching on YouTube, do I actually need to take up time by reading it out, or could I just speak to it, please? If I could just speak to it. I remember years ago, at the time of the last reorganisation debate, John Healey, who was the Minister of Local Government at the time, said that when the civil service lost the empire and weren't able to draw lines on maps in Africa anymore, they decided they were going to colonise England instead. And we're being treated here like a colony. My point is that we should, not just us, but the people of the area, should be able to express their preferences for how local government is structured. But we're not being able to, because we're told that you can only have a unitary local government structure with a population of 300,000 or approaching that, which actually cuts against the other requirements of the government's criteria, which are for geographical sense and place identity. But we can't do that because it's an arbitrary limit of 300,000. So you might wonder, where does this 300,000 come from? So I did the research, and the paper it's based upon was something produced for the County Council's network. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? So the basic argument about the 300,000 is this argument about scale. Economies of scale. Well, that might be appropriate in a factory making widgets, but we're dealing with human beings here. And we're dealing with human services which need to be relatable and not delivered from some remote centre miles away. But the scale argument doesn't apply in Cumbria. The assumption in the research that the £300,000 limit is based on is that a population of 300,000 gives you one main centre with a population around it that you can draw in to produce a unitary area of 300,000 people. That's what the research is based on. But Cumbria doesn't work like that. We don't have a main centre. We've got three. We've got Carlisle, we've got Barrow. And if you put Maryport, White and Cleanamore together, you've actually got a centre of about 80,000 people, which is actually the biggest in Cumbria. What I would argue for is local government that represents clustered around each of those three main centres. So we can have a local authority covering the Allerdale Copeland area. But that's not what we're not allowed to do that, even though it would make a lot of sense. You can't move everything incumbent into one main centre. The research shows actually as well that scale isn't just the only important issue. Geography and sense of place are important issues as well. But of course, government has chosen the bit it likes, the 300,000, because it likes big local authorities, whatever people might think of that. It says that produces savings, but actually, when again you look at the research, the evidence for savings is pretty marginal. The report that the 300,000 is based on focuses on children and adult services, but that actually flies in the face of evidence that you get better and more effective outcomes in children and adult services when you join these services up with other services with localities in evidence, join those areas up, those services up in localities. The evidence actually argues against what the government's proposing, but they only pick out the evidence they want. Apart from that, the research also focuses on things like transport and economic development, but they're lined up for mayoral combined authorities. So it's actually totally irrelevant to the argument about unitaries, because that's all going into a mayoral combined authority anyway. So we can have unitaries whatever size we like, in theory, and it doesn't matter about transport and economic development because they're in combined authorities. What's completely missing from the argument in the government's papers and the research it's based on is the argument about public health. And that's what district councils do and have done since the 1850s. That's why we were set up. They didn't allocate public health back in the 1850s, never since to county councils, because they said they're too remote. Almost all the services that we provide originally came from Victorian ideas about the importance of public health. And if we've learned anything in the last 12 months, sorry?
You're 30 seconds left, Councillor.
Right. If we've learned anything in the last 12 months, it's the importance of public health, but it doesn't feature in the government's arguments whatsoever. We've seen the farce of test and trace when it's done in centralised big organisations. We have a much more successful public health test and trace system run by our own environmental health officers at small scale because it's local. So we should be able to go for small scale local services.
Thank you, Councillor Heaslip.
If that's what the people want.
Thank you, Councillor
Heaslip. The
Heaslip.
choice at present.
Is that seconded?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Councillor Wilkinson, are you seconding this motion?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Right, thank you. The motion is now open for debate. Would you like to speak, Councillor Wilkinson?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I believe we're being ruled by criteria. The case of central government just issues the criteria and we have to follow it. I believe the geography is wrong. It's just not right. And I feel strongly against it, and that is why I have backed Councillor Heaslip's motion.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an interesting motion that you've put before us, Councillor Heaslip. I agree that many new authorities should reflect the distinct identity and geography of the area. That's why our preferred position as an executive is for a new unitary authority to operate on the existing footprint of Allerdale, Copeland and Carlisle councils. I believe that it is an area that we can all identify with, whether you were from Workington, Spatriot or Thursby. The fact of the matter remains, however, that whilst you may wish to argue that 300,000 figure has no basis in legislation, the government has made its position clear in the House of Commons and in the invitation to all the councils in Cumbria. If I may quote from the invitation, where the area of each unitary authority is credible geography consisting of more than one existing local government areas with an aggregate population which is either within the range of 300,000 to 600,000 or such other figure that, having regard to the circumstances of the authority, including local identity and geography, could be considered substantial. I believe, therefore, that government are already giving us exactly what Councillor Heaslip is asking for. They're giving us the opportunity to put forward a credible proposal that needn't be 300,000. They're then going to give the public the chance to tell them exactly what they think of the proposals. They're giving us an opportunity to put forward what's right for us. We need to take the opportunity for all the reasons I've already highlighted. All the authorities that Councillor Heaslip references were created by a Labour government over a decade ago. This government hasn't created any new authority with a population under 370,000. We need to think very carefully about what we want, what the government wants, and how we can both come away happy. I think we should put a credible proposal forward now and certainly not risk the possibility that the 300,000 figure might have more basis in legislation with the introduction of a white paper. I also use the word credible very deliberately. I've heard some suggestions that there should be 3 unitary authorities in Cumbria and that Allerdale and Copeland should form a unitary authority. The simple fact of the matter is that this will not work. It does not provide us with financial footing that our residents need if we improve services and provide them with a strong voice in the region and in Whitehall. The population of Allerdale and Copeland is forecast to fall over the next 20 years. We can't make a case for sustainability on those population projections. If it were forecast to grow substantially, then I grant you that an argument could be made. But the reality of the situation is that if we are to change those population projections, if we were going to give our people and businesses a chance, then we have to think bigger and we have to think longer term. So I can't support this motion this evening, as I believe the government have already given us what Councillor Heaslip is asking for. I just don't know how long that will remain the case. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Heaslip, you have a right to reply.
Right, okay. Sorry, wasn't quite expecting the debate to be concluded that quickly. I'll be very quick. Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Heaslip, apologies. I think the Mayor's trying to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Councillor Granger, would you like to speak?
Greenie.
Mr. Greenie, sorry. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been listening to the debate tonight, and for me, I think it's much more than proposals being put forward. I think it's much more serious than that. And I think there's been a bit of patronisation going on from the Conservative group with regards how they intend to move forward. My main concern is the lack of democracy in the whole process. I'm extremely concerned at how the proposal was initiated by the group of 3 Conservative councillors back in July with no consultation with anyone else. The fact that the proposal was put forward and initiated by this group of councillors with any upfront assessments or option study work being undertaken to determine the best way forward for the residents of Allerdale in terms of both assessing the economic and impact upon services for the borough, and I find that very worrying. I think it's an irresponsible approach. It shows a cavalier attitude, and to me it shows that the whole process has been politically driven by the Conservative group, I think at both ministerial and borough level, and I think it's been driven in order to position the Conservative group to lead their proposed North Cumbrian unitary solution. I think they've been completely unwilling to allow the correct due diligence on the range of options available. And I think they've used the current COVID-19 pandemic to cloak screen and push through their own Conservative agenda, which I find extremely worrying. I think there's little doubt there's been in-depth discussions which have taken place. And I think senior councillors tonight have played on a bit of naivety of certain other councillors. But I'm not naive enough to think that there hasn't been discussions and strategy discussions at Conservative ministerial, MP level and Borough Council leader level and between them. And I think it's evident these discussions have been used to set out and manipulate the acceptance criteria for any proposed submissions. And I think this has been done to ensure the preferred Conservative option is the only option that fits the submission requirements, irrespective that it may not be the correct option and the best option for the people of Allerdale. I think more concerning is the decision to actually dissolve Allerdale Council has been set up by the government to ensure that no other councillors, other than those from the Conservative group, will be allowed to vote. And I find that extremely shocking, to be honest. And it's on any proposal that's submitted. In essence, Allerdale Borough Council could now be dissolved through a decision taken by Mike Johnson and his political group, the Conservatives, which I don't feel is correct. I think the whole process has been a sham from start to finish and manipulated to a point where we are today, in a position that the Conservative government in Westminster are dictating the closure of Allerdale Council without the consent or agreement of either the council members, more importantly, the people of Allerdale. And they're the people who really matter. And Mike Johnson shouldn't forget that. I believe some of the Conservative group members in Allerdale have not covered themselves in glory, and especially with regards their, should we say, devious takeover of Allerdale Council back in March last year. However, I have no doubt that this was part of the longer-term strategy by the larger Conservative group membership, so that they've now got to a position where they can now allow themselves to solely dictate and take control of the formation of the new Cumbria unitary region. And I don't think it's a matter of conjecture. I think we've seen the process laid out before us. And in a supposedly democratic system, the Conservative Party have been able to exclude all but 7 Conservative group members from the single unitary decision-making process for Cumbria. I think for me, it's probably one of the most disturbing, manipulating things I've seen to a democratic system I've witnessed. And it has all been intentionally strategized.
3 seconds, Councillor Greenie.
Yeah, I think it's been strategized under the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think the people of Cumbria deserve better, and in particular the people of Allerdale. We should be allowed to vote on this. This shouldn't be driven solely by the Conservative group.
Right, thank you, Councillor Greenie. Thank you, Councillor Greenie. I noticed that Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Markley and Councillor Pitcher have indicated they'd like to speak, but we've well run over time now. So I'm going to count Councillor Heaslip, if you'd like his right to reply, I would like to go straight into the vote.
A very quick one, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Johnson said, the government's made its position clear. It says 200,000, and that's actually my point. The point in this motion is that we'll have an opportunity, if the previous motion was adhered to by government, and we're waiting for the white paper, we'll have an opportunity to actually ask the government to change its mind. And that's what we're doing. And I think we're entitled to ask the government to change its mind. Government has said an Allerdale Copeland proposal will not even be considered, as it's non-compliant with their requirements. Now, I'm not saying, and we're not saying, it must be Allerdale Copeland, though I do favour it. But I object to the fact that if that's what the people of this area actually wanted, the government is saying, we ruled you out of order on that. You can only go with the criteria that we've set up. So we need an opportunity to change those criteria. We need an opportunity to make an argument. Allerdale Copeland might not be the best answer, but we'll never know unless we're able to put it to the test alongside all the others. And that's what democracy means, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Heaslip. As I've stated, we're well over time now. If you've got a very, very quick reply, I'm quite willing, because it's such a serious contention here. I have asked Councillor Heaslip if you'd like to go straight into the vote. Councillor Heaslip, would you like to go straight to the vote now?
I've done my right reply, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm done.
You've done your right of reply, Councillor Heaslip. We're go now for the vote. Okay, so I can now hand it over to Gail to take the vote on the motion by roll call, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, again, whether you're for, against or abstain, please. Councillor Annison.
Councillor Annison, against.
Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Mary Bainbridge, for.
Councillor Bell.
Councillor Bell, against.
Councillor Briggs.
Councillor Briggs, for.
Councillor Campbell-Savers.
For.
Councillor Coburn.
Councillor Nicky Coburn, for.
Councillor Cook.
Councillor Cook, against.
Councillor Crouch,
Problems.
can you just repeat that please, Councillor Crouch?
Go back to it.
I'll come back to the end. I think he's having some problems. Councillor Daniels,
Councillor Daniels against.
Councillor Fairbrother,
Councillor Fairbrother 4.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
Councillor Fitzgerald against.
Councillor Gaston,
Councillor Peter Gaston for.
Councillor Granger,
Councillor Malcolm Granger against.
Councillor Greenie,
Councillor Greenie for.
Councillor Harrington,
Councillor Hilda Harrington for.
Councillor Heaslip,
For.
Councillor Hedworth,
Councillor Hedworth against.
Councillor Hodgson,
Councillor Hodgson against.
Councillor Horsley,
Councillor Horsley for.
Councillor Johnson,
Against.
Councillor Kemp,
Councillor George Kemp for.
Councillor Kendall,
Councillor Kendall for.
Councillor King,
Councillor King for.
Councillor Kirkbride,
Councillor Kirkbride for.
Councillor Lansbury,
Councillor Lansbury 4.
Councillor Lister,
Councillor Lister against.
Councillor Little,
For.
Councillor Lynch,
Councillor Lynch 4.
Councillor Maguire,
Councillor Maguire for.
Councillor Markley,
Councillor Markley against and concerned he could not speak against the motion.
Councillor Martin,
Councillor Martin against.
Councillor McCarran Holmes,
For.
Councillor Mumby,
Against.
Councillor Pitcher,
Councillor Alan Pitcher against, and also concerned I couldn't speak.
Councillor Sandwith,
Councillor Sandwith for.
Councillor Sansom,
For.
Councillor Scott,
Councillor Scott for.
Councillor Semple,
Councillor Sample for.
Councillor Smith,
Councillor Smith for.
Councillor Stoddart,
Against.
Councillor Tyson,
Councillor Tyson against.
Councillor Wilkinson,
Councillor Wilkinson for the motion.
Councillor Williams,
Councillor Williams for.
and I'll just return to see if we've got Councillor Crouch.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Crouch has phoned in and confirmed that he is voting for.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. I can confirm, Madam Mayor, that you have 28 in favour and 16 against with no abstentions.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We will now adjourn for 15 minutes to resolve some technical issues. Thank you.
Members, if you can return and switch your cameras on, then we'll know you're ready to go. Thank you.
You ready to go? Item 5, local government reorganisation. That's on pages 5 to 28. This item affords member comments on the proposal for local government reorganisation in Cumbria, with the expectation that they will be properly considered by the executive in making the decision to submit a full proposal on 25th of November 2020. I'd like to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only intend to give a very brief introduction to this paper, given that I've said a lot already this evening. And the whole point of this debate is to give the members a chance to debate the issue in advance of the executive meeting on Wednesday. We have a choice as members of this council. We have a choice between the status quo or change. Change is never easy, but it creates opportunities. Without change, we'd still be going to Blockbuster for a DVD on Saturday night or putting films in our cameras. Without change in local government, we'll be trying to solve 21st century problems with 20th century solutions. We'll be looking to buy increasingly expensive film for the camera when everyone else is buying a memory card. The leaders of councils across Cumbria initiated this process, despite what Councillor Greenie believed or said before. Last time I checked the Conservative membership, Stuart Young, the leader of Cumbria County Council, definitely wasn't on there. He's definitely a Labour member. But we created this process, or initiated this process, because we recognise that our existing structures will not serve us well in the future. As I've already said, there will be many councillors on this call tonight that have spent their entire political careers fighting over which budgets to cut. We have to stop fighting over cuts and start fighting for investment. I believe this is only possible with a move to a unitary council and securing a devolution deal for Cumbria. The government wants to make deals, and it wants to make deals with directly elected mayors. Investment is being ring-fenced specifically for those deals. We need that investment. Cumbria needs that investment. I believe that we've undertaken a robust process in arriving at the position we've put before you for debate this evening. We've appointed a team of international repute in KPMG to tell us if our plans are the best ones and if they work or not. We believe that 2 unitary authorities provides the best solution to the problems local government and our area faces in the future. It provides an opportunity for investment into services, it creates financial sustainability, and it provides a strong voice for the area. A common voice that is shared, that has a shared identity in geography and doesn't get weakened by competing factions across Cumbria. I believe that the 2 unitary authorities in Cumbria will work, and I believe a unitary authority covering the footprint of the existing Allerdale, Copeland and Carlisle councils will work. I've met and listened to many of you over the past few weeks, whether in full member briefings that we have held, the cross-party working group meetings or the scrutiny meeting. And that's what I intend to do tonight in advance of the executive meeting on Wednesday. Madam Mayor, I believe it is the serenity prayer that suggests, God give us the grace to accept the serenity of the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that we should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. I believe there is enough wisdom at this meeting tonight to recognise when it is time to change, but I'm keen to listen to the views of councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Thank you, indeed. The debate is now open, and I now bring in councillors to make their representations. Councillor Pitcher, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would. We've heard conspiracy stories tonight worthy of a Shakespearean play. We've been accused of plotting against the sanity of Cumbria for the good people of Cumbria and Allerdale, and we've had all sorts of weird and wonderful things thrown at us because we dared to open up a debate about going for a unitary authority. I didn't come into this into politics to be a lapdog and do as I was told. I would only do things for the good of the people in Wigton and Woodside, which is what I was put there for, and for Allerdale. My fellow Tory party members will tell you that I could be a thorn in the backside with things and won't just go with the flow, because I've always fought against just doing what I've been told to do, always have done. I truly believe that we need to step forward and try and make a change and change things for the good of Cumbria and of Allerdale, to make sure we do the right thing by the people. And if that means me losing my seat, then so be it. That means me losing my seat if it goes that way. If that's for the good of the area, then so be it. I think we should at least put a case forward and try and be in the same bus as the rest of the people, as opposed to trying to tag along behind, hoping they'll allow us to leap aboard. Little bit like this country did with the common market back all those years ago, when we asked to join and a certain Frenchman didn't want us to, because we didn't want to do it in the first place with him, because we didn't like the French apparently. So I think it's the right thing to do. I think we should go down this path. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pitcher. Councillor Markley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, well, as I said before, and was not allowed to come back after the previous speaker, clearly doesn't understand how politics work. And the county council is Labour and Lib Dem led administration, not just Conservative. So it is a full Cumbria thing. And my full view is I've been a councillor for a long time, and my electorate, the community I serve, have always said there's far too many councillors and far too many councils. So we need to go forward, have a stronger voice with smaller participants of councillors doing whatever they do, I don't know. But we need to go forward, get some more money into the county, into West Cumbria, go forward with a voice for the local people in Allerdale, combining together with Copeland and Allerdale and Carlisle to move forward for a better place for us to move forward with. So clearly, as I said before, the politics are there, and we are the Conservatives administration, and with this Labour and Liberals within the county who are also pushing forward for this as well. So it is not just a Conservative thing, it is the full politics of the administrations of other parties. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Markley. Councillor Greenie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I anticipated that response from the various councillors from the Conservative group. I've read the document. I'm not averse to the unitary process. You know, it's something I am in favour of, but I've read this document and it is definitely lacking in substance. And to actually propose a way forward using this document, I don't think is good enough. It definitely isn't good enough when you read it. With regards to the request for LGR, I would like Councillor Johnson to confirm that Stuart Young was a signatory on the letter that he put forward to government. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I respond to Councillor Greenie's request?
Councillor Martin?
Madam Mayor?
No, not at the moment. It's Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's not a question and answer. This is
Or the point of correction.
Yeah, okay. That's fine, Councillor Johnson. That's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Greenie.
Councillor Martin, then.
Sorry, Mayor, am I speaking now or not?
I've given you. I've allowed you to come back to a question. Yes,
Thank
I have
you.
allowed you to do so. Yes.
In response to Councillor Greenie, he seems to be so misinformed with the process that we've arrived where we've arrived. The initial letter went from Stuart Young, who is the county council leader, also the Labour leader, group leader of the county council, which was supported by Mike Starkey and me. That was the first letter that went off to government. There was then a second letter that went from Mike Starkey and John Mallinson of Carlisle City Council and myself. Also, there was representation made from South Lakes and Barrow. And Eden, sorry. So it's not just a Conservative conspiracy, Councillor Greenie, as you would suggest.
Right, thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In my short 5 years in local government, I've seen many people want to change things and most people don't like it. Now, unfortunately, we live in a time where things need to change. Local government needs to change. And we are going to be at the back of the queue if we follow what's happening tonight. There's been a number of people right across Cumbria, including ourselves, have expressed interest in moving things forward. Now, if we take a step back now at this point, we might be in one big unitary authority of the whole of Cumbria, which will not represent the people of Allerdale well at all. So we must do what's best as a group. Never mind playing politics, as people keep saying. Everybody around this table seems to be playing politics, apart from the ones who are wanting to move forward. It's not about which group you're in. It's about the people that we represent, and we must do what's best for those people and not what's best to keep our seats or play politics and keep our little top-ups for our pensions going, or whatever it may be that we're in it for. I'm in it for the people, and we must move forward for the people. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right. Thank you now. Councillor Lansbury, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we have a look at point 3.7 on page 6 of this report, there are a couple of bullet points there. Firstly, that the proposals have to command, the two I picked out, command a good deal of local support across the area. And second, that they cover a credible geography for the proposed new structures. Now, is it not... I'm getting a lot of feedback. We don't seem to have a way forward. We don't seem to have an agreed approach. So there isn't a great deal of local support. Carlisle are putting in a different proposal, or seem to have. Eden and Copeland have all got different proposals to us. If there are 4 different proposals, it will still go nowhere. And it's because you haven't consulted that you haven't brought everybody along with this process. Change is inevitable, but not at this pace and this rushed way forward. Sorry, I've lost communication.
We'll stay with you, Councillor Lansbury. You've got your sound back, but we'll stay with you now. Would you like to continue, please?
I'm sorry, but I don't know which point you lost me. I was just making the point that because the group hasn't consulted with everybody, you haven't brought people along with you. I mean, we've had so many analogies of playing fields, buses and trains, but you haven't got anybody on board with you. So we don't seem to have a way forward. That's very frustrating.
Right, thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, obviously, I'm going to say I totally back what Deputy Leader Mike Johnson is saying. I think the executive have been open and transparent, and I've got to say, I remember the last executive that was in power. Basically, they just told us what was going on. We weren't involved in any kind of talking about what we thought we should happen. It was all down to Councillor Smith telling the rest of the council what was going on after a lot of time it had happened. So, you know, I refute a lot of the allegations that's been thrown strongly at the executive, and even with Deputy Leader Johnson going to scrutiny and continually going to scrutiny and answer questions, I can't see how we haven't been open and transparent about what's been going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This debate seems to have become rather personal, political, which is a great shame, I would say. In a speech earlier, I think I outlined all the different ways in which the executive has tried to engage the council membership in this process. I'd also, I won't go over that again, but I think all those opportunities have been there. I'd also like to reiterate that, yes, Councillor Lansbury, that there could well be 4 proposals, but if there are 4 proposals, there will, and they are determined as viable, then there will be a public consultation on those. The document that Councillor Greenie is referring to, can I remind you, is the outline proposal. There will be a full business case for us to look at in due course. So he's looking at an incomplete document. Yeah, I actually think Stuart Young would be deeply insulted to be referred to as one of the Conservatives who put forward a proposal. Stuart Young's proposal was in fact the first one to be submitted, and that was for a single unitary authority over the whole of Cumbria, a Labour councillor. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Fair. Councillor Fairbrother, please.
Hello, back to the actual detail in the report, which I thought we were debating. At 6.4, it says risk analysis, and there's a couple of quite severe risks there. One is that the model wouldn't be put forward by the government to be formally consulted on. And the second one says, Allerdale model is not the preferred model chosen by the communities and residents of Cumbria. So then there's consequences that the current boundaries will form part of one or the other option. Then controls required. I don't quite understand what controls there's going to be there. It looks like it's going to be a long drawn out process. The preferred model is not accepted by the community, and that's where the weakness is. I think there's only one preferred model from Allerdale Executive. I think perhaps you should have come forward with 1 or 2 at least, whereas just one preferred model is either going to be thrown out or not. And I think that's a weakness in the report.
Right, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just to add to the debate, first of all, I thought put Councillor Cook correct. I think that we said that the last administration just went ahead with the proposals. I seem to believe that the Conservative group at that time were fully behind those proposals. So I don't know where it's come from on that one. But getting back to the debate, Chairman, I am pro-unitary. I always have been. I think that the present 3-tier system doesn't work for the people out there. People don't know which council to contact about such different things. But my main issues with this is that West Cumbria, we have our own identity. Allerdale and Copeland, we have so much in common. So much in common along the energy coast, the nuclear options, all those things. That we have people working Sellafield, vice versa. People working on the campus on Lillyall. We have so much in common with that groundswell right down to rugby league. Now, what's bothering me is that one of the options what's in this thing is we've got Allerdale, Copeland, Carlisle, and Eden. Now that there would absolutely be absolutely toxic mix for West Cumbria, because everything would be governed from Carlisle, and we would just be like as we are now with the county council. West Cumbria gets out. You know, so there's the fears I've got. I think we've got nothing in common with Ulster, with Penrith, even some parts of Carlisle. You know, so I think that when the executive does make the decision at the executive meeting and going forward, they're going to take on board the actual chemistry of what works in West Cumbria. There's so much going on in this part of Cumbria, what unites the people to having a maybe unitary authority from all the way from Millham all the way to Alston. You know, we have 2 mountain ranges in between that. You don't have mountain ranges in York, in these metropolitan places where they've got lots and lots of people in Birmingham or in Bradford or somewhere like that. You know, it's got to be taken in the context of keeping together what we've got, sort out the best way of going forward, and we believe that that way forward should have been 3 unity authorities instead of 2. But we are where we are. we're led by the government paper, and that's what they said. They've taken out what was in that motion, what Mike Easton said. So totally against the way forward, and the arguments supposed to be put down by the Conservatives tonight were personal, vindictive, and I think that the people do not sit on this council to top up the pensions, like one of them said before. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I've talked at great length with Alan, and there's a lot I agree with. But not on this. I think what Mike's putting forward is perfectly acceptable. More councillors does not mean more democracy. Let me remind Councillor Greenie that Workington returned a Conservative MP with a 4,000 majority. 2/3 of the voters in Cumbria are Conservatives, and there are 5 Conservative MPs. So to insult Conservatives as devious is simply wrong. I'm quite angry with that, because we do not sit scheming and otherwise. I am a personal example of the fact that we do have dissension in our party. We're a broad church. A unitary authority is the way forward. Less councillors is the way forward. Less councillors, better quality councillors will get the job done. And this is where I disagree with Alan. We have not got a lot in common. We are a rural county, okay? And we have to take into account, with democracy and committees, the effects that the economy has on West Cumbria. Allerdale is not West Cumbria, and people have to wake up to that. Thursby is not West Cumbria. Wigton is not West Cumbria. Crummock is not West Cumbria. There are people in Sedbergh have never even seen Workington. So let's get this right. Let's talk about democracy, Councillor Greenie. Let's get it right. And the libelous attack on our party is disgraceful. And I'll be talking to you later, my friend. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, point of order, Councillor. Would you please explain?
Yes, I believe Councillor Anderson is using threatening language there.
Just a moment, Councillor Wilkinson. I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Wilkinson, but can I remind all councillors to treat each other with respect in future conversations?
That is my point, Madam Mayor. Respect. I don't think that threatening language like that, threatening to speak to someone later, is showing any respect whatsoever.
Okay, the point taken, Councillor Wilkinson. As I said, we should all remember to show respect to each other. Thank you. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a small point. I was reading an article in the paper yesterday, and they were saying that COVID is now a catchphrase for doing absolutely nothing, whether you happen to be a customer trying to get your rebate back from the airlines or any other thing. I don't feel that we as a council should now be waiting until COVID is over. Who knows, it could go on for at least another year. We need to move forward. We just can't sit here and wait for somebody else to take over the county, maybe then not giving us any voice in what will be taking place. We need to get, as Mike Johnson said at the scrutiny meeting that I was at, we need to get on the train before it leaves the station. And frankly, I will be supporting this motion. And I'll say again, COVID is no excuse for not doing anything.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Lynch, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you look at page 24 of the agenda, and it's the last page of the submission, the further details in the full proposal. There's, I think, what needs to be looked at. If if you're going to put into your submission that you want to go with Copeland and Carlisle City Council, you ought to have really discussed this with them. And because if they put forward something else, I know Councillor Fitzgerald said you have to look at all the models, but it makes it look a bit silly if we've put in something and one of the councils that we're supposed to be going in with has put in something else. The other thing is the practical details. There are absolutely no practical details in this at all. And when are they going to come in? I am mindful of what this will mean for local parish councils and local town councils. Who is going to be in charge of what? Who's going to be in charge of waste services? Who's going to be in charge of car parks and all these sort of things? Are they going to go to local councils? If it's going to be a unitary authority, if the two unitary authorities is thrown out, we will be in a single unitary authority for Cumbria, and that actually will make things more remote. Cumbria is the second largest county in England, and we have totally different areas, and that has got to be considered as well. This is going to make, even if it goes to a two unitary authority, it's still going to make local government very remote. And I'm very concerned about local councils, town councils and parish councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we can just sort of get back onto that debate side and away from the politics side. It's my opinion. I hope the executive understand this and take this on board. The feeling that's in the room at the moment is driven by the debate, obviously. I'm a big believer that we do need to move forward and we do need to do it correctly. I mean, that's the key to this, isn't it? It's doing it correctly. The key word for me in all of this is geography and identity, because that's ultimately what we have to focus on. The magical 300,000 figure it is a magical figure. If larger was better, then obviously county council would probably just take over and do away with all the boroughs, wouldn't it? So a larger isn't always better. Sometimes it's a little bit around the geography, and as has already been explained by Councillor Lynch about the size of Cumbria. You know, this isn't a very simple job. And it all seems a little bit dysfunctional to me, the way this process goes. But I do hope the executive take on board this and don't just push ahead because they can.
Right, thank you, Councillor Scott. I noticed that Councillor Greenie and Councillor Fitzgerald have got their hands up to speak. You've already spoken before, so I'm sorry, the rule still applies. I'm sorry. So the next speaker was Councillor Semple.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just first of all, I would just like to take a bit of issue with the sanctimonious things that Councillor Martin said about being about politics. Is really lazy because he's a Conservative. I'm in Labour. We represent that political view. So, and also that thing about topping up your pension. I have not met one councillor who is like that. But I mean, very briefly, Madam Mayor, I mean, I think I commend the report. I think a lot of what Councillor Cook was saying about being open, I agree with. Instinctively, I think there should be a unitary authority. But I'll say again, I see nobody. You know, we'll get the violin out here, Madam Mayor. I see nobody. We can't. Yes, we've got IT, but it's a bit of an echo chamber, isn't it? You don't get a full view and a full opinion. And I just feel that there's so much detail that we could put through if we just had the chance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Semple. Councillor Bell.
Hello, Mayor. I've sat back and I've listened to a lot of the stuff that's gone on tonight. And I may be from the old-fashioned school, but I've always been a firm believer of too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And I'm totally with Mike on this, that I think it would be a really good thing for Cumbria to move forward. And this thing about working turn in the West Coast, there is more to Allerdale and more than there is just down the West Coast. There's Wigton, there's Silloth, there's a lot of other small places, Spatria, that, you know, we get forgotten as well. you know, and to just for them to speak for everybody, I don't think is right. I think we need to move forward. We've never had, COVID has just brought up a lot of things that we've never planned for. And there's a lot of things in the future that's going to be coming our way. And I do think that strength, by pulling together, that is the best way forward for Cumbria, to make it stronger, to work together. And I understand what you're saying about, you know, 4 different people saying 4 different things, you know, but like Marion said, it's only consultation that we can do our thing, but we've got to talk about Allerdale, not about other boroughs. We've got to talk about Allerdale and what's best for us and what's best for our people. And in Cromwell, you know, there is a Conservative area, which I'm a Conservative, you know, for them, you know, and I want to speak for my people in my own place. And, you know, and I think they would be fully behind what we're saying to move forward and go with change and do what we're doing. And I think I'm fully behind this. So that's my view for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Lister.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to point out that we will still have town and parish councils. We just won't have borough and county councillors. It will be one councillor that you will go to with your problems. By all means, tell your town or parish council, and they can tell your next step up councillor, who will be the one person that is responsible. There will not be this fiddling about, oh, this is borough or this is county. It will be the one unitary authority. And the other thing is that it means we will get more grants, we will get a louder voice and more clout in Westminster. Come on, wake up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, thank you, Councillor Lister. I've no more speakers now, so can I just call on Councillor Johnson if you'd like to say a final word?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Emotions are quite strong, clearly, on this subject, but I have listened to every comment that's been made tonight from every councillor, and all feedback is valuable feedback. We do find ourselves in this position, and I'll reinforce it again. Had we not even engaged with signing any form of letter to government, this process would have been started by Stuart Young, the leader of Cumbria County Council. Stuart has been pushing for a unitary authority in Cumbria since at least 2007 that I'm aware of. Stuart, when we met with the Secretary of State's representative in about April time, because these discussions have been going on for some significant time now, Stuart made representation to him and said, I wrote to you previously and nobody wrote back. So Stuart has been keen to do this for a long, long time. So I just want to reiterate the point that, yes, we ended up signing a letter, but the letter was going to go to the Secretary of State anyhow. The Secretary of State made it quite clear at the meeting that he only needed to receive a letter from one authority, and that would instigate the debate, the discussion. It would open the door for all this to happen. Some comments that Sally Lansbury made command a good deal of local support across the area. That's across the county, Sally. It's not just in Allerdale. It's from the local government tiers that are already in Cumbria. As long as it has some support, it can go ahead. It's not us that make the final decision as councils. We all submit our proposals. The Allerdale proposal will mirror Copeland's proposal. We understand that Carlisle's proposal mirrors Eden's proposal. And then we've got South Lakes and Barrow that has another proposal altogether that includes Lancaster, North Lancashire. But it's the Secretary of State that will make the decision on what is the preferred option for Cumbria to move forward on. So yes, there may well be 4 or 5 different options, but as we'll all know, those that have been involved with local government for a significant time in Cumbria will know there's never been full agreement across the county, because the county does have such unique characteristics. The geography of the county is significantly different to a lot of other counties in England. But we're here and we've got to do the best of our residents. If we don't participate and submit a proposal, other proposals will be submitted and we won't have an option to submit one if we don't send one in on the 9th of December. Then it can't be taken into consideration. We could then end up with a scenario where we either have a single unitary applied to us and we have no say in the matter. We could end up with a proposal of a different two unitary proposal, such as Carlisle's proposal is Carlisle, Eden and Allerdale. And none of these are things that we want. So the best option and the most credible option that we can come up with to meet the criteria that government have set out, because that's the key here. We've got to meet the criteria that government have set out. So the only credible submission that we can make is Copeland, Allerdale and Carlisle. But I do hear that people are nervous about these things. But we need to sit back and think of it about what's best for our communities. And I think if we've got a say and we can make the voice, that's when we'll get our key points across. We make a submission on the 9th of December, whatever that may be. And my proposal is that it's a Allerdale, Copeland and Carlisle, as I've already said. We then submit that to the Secretary of State. If the Secretary of State believes that one of the submissions from Cumbria is a credible one, then go to a consultation process. If there's 2 or 3 that are credible and are worth investigating further, they'll all go out to every resident in this county. Every resident will be consulted on the proposal. So it is democratic. It won't be for us as councillors. It won't be for us as executive members. It's for the residents of Cumbria to decide whether they want a unitary authority. So all the electorate out there are the ones that will decide the future of whether we end up with a single unitary or a 2 unitary proposal. But I firmly believe that the best option for us and for our residents that we represent is a 2 unitary model with an elected mayor. And that gives us an option and an avenue to have a voice that's very strong in Westminster. It brings in further investment. As it says in the paper, there's money that's ring-fenced for metro mayors. 4.2 billion on transport automatically goes to metro mayors. We don't even get a sniff of it. Another 900 million for brownfield sites. Again, we don't get a sniff of it. We've got to do the best for our residents. There's nothing more democratic than going to the electorate in February or March, if one of these proposals is acceptable, than asking everybody in Cumbria.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Thank you, Councillor Johnston. You've had your 5 minutes. It was only a closing remark we wanted, but thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So now, can I thank all our councillors there for your contribution. The council has spent time making observations and comments with the expectations that these will be properly considered by the executive in making the decision this coming Wednesday. Now, can I tell you that we're having an adjournment for 15 minutes before we go into item number 6. 15 minutes, 9:15. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We're on item agenda 6, election of leader of the council. No, you're already here. Thank you. Can I take nominations for the appointment of leader, please? Councillor Coburn.
Hi, yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I nominate Paul Scott to be leader of the Allerdale Borough Council. I've only known Paul since the 2019 May election, but his commitment and hard work in the and for the community has been exemplary, and he's shown leadership by example, transparency, inclusion, and his democratic behaviour. At borough level, it shouldn't be about political career moves or party politics. So as I said, I nominate Paul Scott to be leader of this council.
Thank you, Councillor Coburn. Have we a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor
motion.
Wilkinson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Councillor
motion.
Wilkinson, you're seconding. Right, thank you. Are there any more nominations? I now hand over to Gail to take the vote by roll call for Councillor Paul Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, it's the usual voting procedure for the one nomination. So when I come to you, can you please say whether you're for, against, or you abstain? Councillor Annison.
Councillor Annison against.
Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Bainbridge.
Councillor Mary Bainbridge against.
Councillor Bell.
Against. Sorry, Paul, you beat me at the sexiest Allerdale councillor, so it's payback time.
Councillor Briggs.
Councillor Briggs, for.
Councillor Campbell-Savers.
Against.
Councillor Coburn.
Councillor Coburn, for.
Councillor Cook.
Councillor Cook against.
Councillor Crouch.
Against.
Councillor Daniels.
Councillor Daniels against.
Councillor Fairbrother.
Councillor Fairbrother against.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Councillor Fitzgerald against.
Councillor Gaston.
Councillor Peter Gaston, for.
Councillor Granger.
Councillor Malcolm Granger, against.
Councillor Greenie.
Councillor Greenie, for.
Councillor Harrington.
Councillor Harrington, for.
Councillor Heaslip.
Michael Heaslip, councillor, against.
Councillor Hedworth.
Councillor Alan Hedworth, against.
Councillor Hodgson.
Councillor Hodgson, against.
Councillor Horsley.
Councillor Horsley, for.
Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Johnson, against.
Councillor Kemp.
Councillor Kemp, for.
Councillor Kendall.
Against.
Councillor King.
Councillor King, for.
Councillor Kirkbride.
Councillor Irving Kirkbride, for.
Councillor Lansbury.
Councillor Lansbury against.
Councillor Lister.
Councillor Lister, against.
Councillor Little.
Councillor Little, very much for.
Councillor Lynch.
Councillor Lynch against.
Councillor Markley.
Councillor Markley, against.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin against.
Councillor McCarran Holmes.
Against.
Councillor Mumby.
Against.
Councillor Pitcher,
Councillor Pitcher against.
Councillor Sandwith,
Councillor Sandwith for.
Councillor Sansom,
Councillor Sansom for.
Councillor Scott,
Councillor Scott for.
Councillor Semple,
Councillor Sample against.
Councillor Smith,
Against.
Councillor Stoddart,
Abstain.
Councillor Tyson,
Against Councillor Tyson.
Councillor Wilkinson,
Very much for.
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams for.
Thank you. Just give me a second, please.
Yeah, now I can't mute it again now. You see it's frozen on speak. So I'll just keep quiet. Okay. I just wanted to check. Yeah, thanks now. Thanks, bye.
Madam Mayor, you have 16 votes in favour, 26 against and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, you're still on mute.
Sorry. Are there any more nominations? Thank you. The motion is closed. Councillor Wilkinson, would you like to speak?
Yes,
Councillor
Madam Mayor.
Heaslip?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We have been, since the breakdown of the coalition, leaderless. We now have democracy being ripped away from the people of Allerdale. 44% of the people of Allerdale.
Councillor Wilkinson, I'm sorry. Councillor Wilkinson, this is an opportunity to make a nomination, not to any kind of statement.
You asked me to speak, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
I do apologise.
Are there any more nominations for leader, please? Councillor Heaslip? Councillor Heaslip, can you hear me?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't have my mic on. In accordance with section 4.20.11 of the Council's Constitution, I move we proceed to next business.
What?
Thank you, Councillor Heaslip. The Madam Mayor asked for any more nominations and none have come forward, and Madam Mayor has closed the debate and the item. There are no other items of business, therefore there has been no election of leader, and therefore the status quo will continue until such time as there is an election of leader.
Thank you, Sharon. There are no more items.